Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the conversation series. I'm honored today to have Dan LaTorraca here with me, Vice President of Marketing and Brand Strategy at the Carolina Hurricanes. Um, this is awesome for me to have Dan here with me. I'm a big Carolina Hurricanes fan. Grew up in the Carolina Hurricanes family, so to have him here and ask him a bunch of nerdy questions about engagement and digital media, especially with how freaking cool our social media is. I'm excited to have Dan here with us. So, Dan, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for the kind words, and thank you for being a Hurricanes fan. We appreciate it. You know, this sports team is nothing without its fans, and every single one is it's very important to what we do.
Yeah, I wanna start off just specifically with you and your career in sports. What was your okay? I want to work in sports moment. How did you get there?
Yeah, that's a great question. So when I went to college, I didn't go with the intention of working in sports, but I did grow up in North Jersey in the '90s when the Yankees were in their prime, and the Yankees were always a big part of like my family's sort of bonding opportunities from my great grandfather to my grandfather to my dad to me and now to my kids. And I was always really obsessed with baseball. Didn't play it. I ran track and wrestled in high school. I wasn't coordinated enough to actually play, but then being a Yankees fan in the '90s, it's all anybody talked about. So when I went to college, I went to school at the University of Scranton for my undergrad, which was well, it's more famous for like The Office now than
Yeah.
anything else and with the intention of being a high school English teacher. And I did that for my first year there, my freshman year, and it was fine. I wasn't that great at it, but at one point there, the Yankees moved their farm team to Scranton, Pennsylvania, and I kind of looked at that as a sign that I always in the back of my head it was like I'd love to work in baseball or work in sports in some way, the same way people daydream about like be a movie star or a rock star or a pro athlete. Like always wanted that to be a potential career, but never actually thought that is something that could happen for me. But I used that as a sign, and one morning I just woke up and I didn't want my entire life to be in classrooms, and I switched my major from English and education to English and communications with a focus on journalism, and I kind of set my sights on wanting to be a baseball journalist, a beat writer for the Yankees.
Yeah.
And I hit the ground hard running. I worked for the city paper, the Scranton Times, the school paper, the Aquinas. I started a blog. I wrote for a magazine that at the time was owned by Fox Sports and like covered minor league baseball. And I did that for a couple of years and got a whole lot of bylines and covered a whole bunch of drafts and games and all that. And by the time I graduated, I learned just how hard it is to find a job in New York media, especially in baseball. So plus, I wasn't talented enough to do that. So I ended up falling into a job with a digital marketing agency. And back in like '08, '09, that was an emerging field of
Yeah.
search engine optimization, which social media marketing was part of it back then. And I learned a whole lot there. And then I learned enough to where a larger agency sort of gave me a shot and doubled my pay. And as a 22-year-old living in New York City, I was like, all right, I can deal with that. But I used that what I had learned to consult for a bunch of like minor league baseball teams on the side, and that kind of helped me bolster my resume a little bit and undercut some agencies they were working with. And after about a year of that, I had two job offers on the table, and I knew when I got to the agency side that I wanted to work in sports at some level. I never thought it would be in marketing or anything like that, but the lines have blurred so dramatically over the past 10, 15 years with what is marketing, what is PR, what is digital, and what is storytelling and branding and all that. That's I've been very, very fortunate to sort of be caught up in what and how that industry has evolved over the years. So that first job ended up being with the Carolina Panthers, and I was brought in to be really their first kind of digital and social person. And I mean, I'll be honest with you now, and I'm not scared to say I had no idea what I was doing. I'd never managed a brand before. I had
Right.
consulted for agencies and definitely not for sports brands. And also, I grew up a baseball fan. I had to pick up like Football for Dummies just so I could know how to properly live tweet games. And it was a challenge, but I got my feet under me, and after a couple of months, I realized what the foundations of our strategy should be, and believe it or not, those are things that I've taken with me even through my time at the Canes here. So spent about 6 years there, and then moved up to the Brooklyn Nets and Islanders for about a year when my wife and I were having our first kid because we wanted to be closer to home. And
Yeah.
after a year in Brooklyn, we loved it, but it was like, well, this isn't as fun as North Carolina. So when an opportunity opened up with the Canes, we had some very casual conversations and realized there might be a way to kind of make that work, and we did, and the rest is history.
I love that. And I love that you have truly seen the transformation of the digital world from social becoming such a massive thing that it is today. I don't think a lot of people can say that. Uh, and I think that is extremely cool that you can see something from fruition, especially in an industry as big as sports.
Been wild. I mean, when I first started, most of the social professionals were like, "Hey, you have a communications degree, go manage the Twitter account." And to watch it evolve to what it is now, where the bulk of pro sports teams have multiple
Multiple.
highly paid professionals,
Yeah.
managing social, and then you have like sometimes content producers that are dedicated to social, whether it be for YouTube or TikTok or
Yep.
what have you. It's pretty cool to see, and the industry is still, as we know, rapidly changing and evolving. And it's fun to be part of that, but it's become a great tool for connecting with fans, and that's probably what I appreciate about it the most.
From football and you being a baseball fan, but to go into football and then have basketball and hockey and all through your journey, what was the learning curve from you? What you said you had to pick up a football for dummies, but
Yeah.
what was the learning curve in terms of digital and how you were having to handle all the different types of content?
Yeah, with the Panthers, it was interesting because they had a website manager at the time, but that was really the full extent. He had jumped over from the community relations department. So I probably had the most digital experience there from a marketing standpoint. So I initially was hired to be the social person, and then inherited a whole lot of other stuff in my first couple of weeks there. Mobile app management, email marketing, and some analytics stuff. And it just grew and grew and grew over my time there. And I won't lie, when you're a kid, you can handle a lot of stuff and don't probably like, oh, what's burnout? I don't know what that is. And
Yeah,
you keep just kind of piling on. You have the energy for it. And, you keep doing and doing, growing. And by the time we got to the 2015 season, I had so much on my plate. And we got through that year. That was the Super Bowl season. It was a lot to manage, with everything going on. And we finally had to expand our staff. But it's the key there, and I was so lucky and so blessed to be at the Panthers when I was there
yeah,
because Cam Newton was drafted
yeah,
right before I got there, and then a year later they had Luke
yeah,
Kuechly, and they had some good seasons. And Charlotte is a special town, and they love their sports teams, and I was really there for up until what happens the next couple of years, some really golden days, and that it's a lot easier to build a community,
it is.
when you have back playoff seasons, not necessarily winning seasons,
Yeah,
but it allowed us to be really successful on the digital landscape and building a strong sense of community and learning on the go too. As
yeah,
like, are we going to make keep pounding a thing, and are we going to, what is our social strategy and voice going to be for a team that really hasn't had a lot of relevancy outside of a
yep.
single Super Bowl appearance in the early 2000s. So, it is something that, we had no locked up strategy when I got there. And by the time I hit year 3 or 4, we had a pretty good idea of what we needed to do to be successful. And by the time it was year 5, like we were hitting on all cylinders, in terms of social strategy, at least.
I still remember the keep pounding. I mean, it spread so far and wide, and I still think a lot of us that have been in North Carolina for a long time still remember that, still say it all the time too.
Yeah.
Uh, Still
The
have all
perfect
the
phrase for a team. It really is. And the usage of it, believe it or not, and I don't think I've ever said this publicly before, was heavily inspired by the Falcons. Believe it. They were just
wow.
all
Okay.
on Rise Up. And I was like, I was thinking, like, I know we had Keep Pounding. It was something that was said a lot internally, but it wasn't, it was a lot of the longtime fans had it something because it really became a mantra for that the Sam Mills teams when he was a coach. But I saw how the Falcons were using it in all their marketing collateral, and I was just like jealous. I was like, I wish we had something like that. And I in no way had anything major to do with like how that took off. That is something that fans and players, really were the ones that championed that. But we started using it heavily in social media, and I remember one day, I think it was the 2012 season. The Panthers were playing the Chargers, and I saw a bunch of fans, and they had a sign that had hashtag keep pounding on it. And that hit me. I was like, wow, like this is really like becoming something. And I loved it as a phrase because it was something that could be used when things are going well, or when it's not going well. And it's become such a piece of identity for a team. And I know we'll touch on that later with like Bunch of Jerks and the Canes that it's all of the teams in North Carolina. They're on their first generation of fans, and if you can do anything to help solidify something that gives them a sense of identity, it's really special. So that's something that it was so fun to witness and have a front row seat to watching just that phrase and everything that it meant in terms of Sam Mills, but also motivation for so many other people to kind of to keep pounding, for lack of a better term. That it's been awesome to witness that, and I'm really glad the Panthers are embracing that one again because I think it means more than just football now, and it really helped, I think, grow that brand in a lot of ways at a time when the football was good, but you always need that extra level of connection when building anything.
It's funny, as you were talking about that, I immediately thought of Bunch of Jerks and how that came to be.
Mhm.
Uh, so switching over to your Carolina Hurricane side, where you've been now for quite some time, you started as director of digital marketing,
Yep.
senior director of marketing, and now sit as vice president of marketing and brand strategy. Just first off, how cool is it to to work for this team? Like, what has it been like for you?
I mean, it's special. I'm a very sentimental person, and I'm forever thankful that the Panthers gave me an opportunity to work in sports.
Yeah,
The Hurricanes gave me an opportunity to build my life in North Carolina,
yeah,
and that's something that, because of that, there's a certain level of pride, but also commitment I have to this team, doing everything I can to make it be as successful as possible from a brand standpoint, because this is, knock on wood, hopefully I'm going to spend the rest of my life raising my family as Hurricanes fans and as part of the Raleigh community. So to play a role in making this team mean as much as it can to the community is really, important to me as a person. So it's been really, really special to do that. And the Bunch of Jerks campaign, I guess you could say, is probably to this date the thing that I'm most proud of, even having a small role in. And I've told the story before, but and honestly, that couldn't have happened without some stuff that happened at the Panthers. If for the hardcore Panthers fans that may be watching this later on, during the 2015 season, that was that special Super Bowl year, and
yeah,
Cam caught a lot of heat for like dancing and dabbing in the end zone after big plays, and especially after a win versus Tennessee, it caused this lawyer. I think the fans that I'm calling her the Tennessee mom or something, because it was
yeah.
this lawyer, and she wrote this like op-ed piece that was just like something out of Footloose, and we leaned in hard on like having fun and being different, and like nothing galvanizes a fan base like when people are being critical of you and you're winning. It's like, and then North Carolinians have like a chip on their shoulder when they're with their pro teams already. So
Yeah.
it worked out really well. And when I can remember the Bunch of Jerks weekend really well because we had two games and
Good.
President's Day weekend, and my family was out of town, so I was really focused on like I had my fingers in the keys on the social side there, and as that whole thing went down, I'm just getting flashbacks to 2015, being like, all right, this is like, we're going to lean into this. We're going to have fun with it. We're not just going to let it be one tweet and be done. And we changed our Twitter bio to a Bunch of Jerks. We acknowledged it and kind of nudged the reporters on press row to be like, hey, look at this. So they're screen capping it. And at the time, Twitter's algorithm worked in a way where if you liked those tweets, they would
Yeah.
filter it. So we didn't have to send a single tweet, and it was already like a top trending topic on Reddit. on Twitter, everywhere else. And during the game, our social managers putting stuff out there. I'm photoshopping the Grandpa Simpson meme when we're talking about how we have to make T-shirts. And this is what sets the Carolina Hurricanes apart from any other organization I've worked for is that it's midnight after a game. I think the second game we had that weekend, it was like I want to say it was a Friday and a Saturday back to back. And my boss, the now CMO, then he was VP of marketing, Mike Foreman, and I are talking in my office, and we're like, all right, let's figure out this shirt thing. And he texts Tom Dundon and Don Waddell and 12-ish, 12:30 at night, and like, hey, this is what we want to do. Can we do this? And I'm thinking like they're gonna be like, no, like don't call attention to it. And they're both like all in on it. And our normal T-shirt printer was closed that weekend because of the holiday. And I remember reading this article about this company that rose to prominence during the 2017 Stanley Cup playoffs called Breaking T.
Okay.
And they produced a T-shirt of the Braden Holtby save in real time. They had it ready to go, like that whole like super acrobatic move. I was like, well, let's call them because we had worked with them on something smaller once before. I was like, all right, we have a relationship there, and we emailed them right after we got the approval from Tom and Don, and they were all in. And we told them we need proofs, concepts by the next morning, and they had a few our way. We picked one, and I got it up and running on our e-commerce site. And I remember talking with our then head of retail, being like, all right, we have 250 units coming in. Like, should we maybe like order like 300? And they're like, oh yeah, okay, maybe 275, whatever. And then we sold like 6,000 shirts in the first like 4 or 5 days. And what's special about that whole movement is that it gave fans here a sense of identity, and that the sports is all about community and connection and identity. And the Hurricanes fans for a decade didn't really have that, not since '06. So to play a small role in helping facilitate that is something that I'm immensely proud of. And few things bring me as much joy professionally as when I see a bunch of jerks shirt out in the wild. And look, it's not even a phrase we use that often anymore. It's not part of identity or marketing. We didn't want it to be something that we abused and ran into the ground. But for that season, that very special year where the playoff drought was broken, it was really special to play a role in giving people that identity, but also in a fun and different way where we're being irreverent, where we're leaning into an insult. And not only that, we have easily made millions of dollars off those T-shirts. So it is something that I will forever be proud of until we win a cup here, and then that'll probably top that. But for the time being, that was something that it couldn't have happened without Cam Newton and the Panthers and all. But I'm glad it happened here in Raleigh.
I remember when the T-shirts went out because I myself was like, all right, I gotta go get my T-shirt, and I remember how quickly they were going. Because even when you had gone, they were like, well, we have extra large and then we have extra small right now. We don't know when the next shipment's coming in. And I was like, give me the extra large and I'll take it. And I wear it all the time. It's like my travel T-shirt. I wear it when I'm getting on planes and stuff like that. And that is a shirt that is constantly packed in my suitcase when I'm going places.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you for doing that because you're spreading the word. And it's pretty funny too, because after the first week or two, we switched vendors. Like Breaking T still owns the rights to it, but we work with Cardinal Apparel, which used to be my screen print for a lot of our T-shirt needs. So there's different versions of the shirt floating around where some of the tags say Bella Canvas or Raleigh Screen Print, others say Breaking T. And I always love seeing that. And then, like any type of viral shirt campaign, the weird Amazon bots get on it too. And then you see like totally weird counterfeit ones. And that's how you know you've made it too. That doesn't even bother me. Like, yeah, okay, we lose a little bit of money on it. But like the fact that people are buying it from so many different sources too, that's special for a hockey team that's in the Southeast that really shouldn't be out kicking its coverage that much. And it's cool to see. Like I love when I'm visiting like family or friends in Charlotte and I'll see someone like in a brewery or something wearing it. And it's like, yeah, all right, you know what? The Canes are growing.
I absolutely loved it. It was one of my favorites that because I mean it's still mentioned, but like you were talking about, it's not as big as it was at the time. It's kind of just a normal way of Carolina Hurricanes life now.
Exactly. I mean, look, we're always going to be kind of petty on social media and act like jerks here and there, but ultimately it was a moment in time, and so many people like beat certain things like that in the ground. And
Yeah.
there's so much more to what hockey in the Carolinas is than just that moment. That
Yeah.
it was fun. It was great. It's still a top selling item for us. Wonderful. But we want to move on and continue growing.
And while we're on the word petty's coming up, I absolutely have always said, if I ever had the opportunity to shake the person's hand who's in charge of Carolina Hurricanes Twitter, because it is the best thing in the entire world. You have talked about it. We're not afraid to throw the punches out. We're not afraid to talk back at our rivals, whatever it may be. Where did that fearlessness strategy or the pettiness strategy come from that we're gonna talk back?
So a lot of that was born at the Panthers too. It took a while, and it didn't happen on its own.
Yeah.
The initial plan was just to have a little bit more sense of humor. I know one thing that was always told to me when I was at the Panthers, and it was great leadership, awesome organization. I loved working with Danny Morrison, who's
Yeah.
was the team president there. Now he's the head of the Charlotte Sports Foundation. Was that they never wanted to get too cutesy, but I walked them through the numbers and the plan, and they were all comfortable with it, understood that a smaller market team couldn't afford to not be different and not to build connections in different
Yeah.
ways. And it took a couple of years to kind of get everybody on board and then show like take a little, dip your toe in the water and then show them the metrics and be like, well, this
Yeah.
performed better than every other tweet from every other team that week. And if we continue leading the league in interaction rate, we can sell that for partnership revenue, or we can leverage this in other ways to make money. That's what it's all about. It's about building connection with fans and generating revenue. That's the only thing that we really can do positively with social. We're not winning football games or hockey games. So that's where sort of the comfort level came from with all that. And when I first got to the Canes, like I told them in the interview process, like I'm going to value one-to-one interaction so much more than, being snarky or whatever else. Like, and there's even like an interview idea, I think it was with Canes Country, where I was like, it's not going to be the crux of any social strategy. And this
Right.
was on the heels of like the Vegas Golden Knights stuff, where that was kind of their brand in a way. And they did a great job with that too. But like, I didn't come in with the intention of that happening.
Yeah.
And then the storm surge happened
Yeah.
and became like everyone's cue to either love it or attack Southern hockey. And I
Yeah.
was like, all right, well, we got to take the gloves off now. And then it just sort of evolved because winning can create some kind of conflict sometimes and animosity, and especially if you're doing it in a way that doesn't align with the viewpoint of traditional, hockey
Yep.
fans. So we really it was sort of born out of like we have to do this, and fortunately it's evolved in a good way. The other side of it too is we have ownership here and leadership here at the Canes that aren't scared of that. There are a lot of teams in sports at every level that are like, no, that's not how we're going to do things. And Tom Dundon is a great owner, and he's a smart guy, and he understands the value that social can bring. So this is the longest leash I've ever had. And there are times when I'm like talking to other people organizationally, being like, that's too far.
Yeah. Yep.
And we were able to kind of have some fun with that. So I was on the Keys a lot my first year with the team back
Yeah.
in 2018. And then we hired some really, really talented people, Matt Suter from the Durham Bulls and Mackenzie Friedman from the PGA Tour and the Dallas Wings. And I'm very infrequently involved in social. I'll give him ideas and things, and I'll chip in now and again, whether it's like the Sopranos thing or the
Yeah.
Jersey video, things like that. Where it's hard not to get involved, but day to day for the past 4 years, it's been all them, and they've been able to not only maintain a lot of that fun
Yeah.
banter, but also grow it from a metric standpoint. So we're really leading the league in everything. And that's not our ultimate goal. Our goal is we serve the fans, and
Yep.
that's what it has to be about. But the numbers tell us that we're doing an okay job, and then we can sell those numbers to a
Yeah.
partner.
What I love though is that if you can always count on Carolina Hurricanes fans that now we're all ready too. You guys say whatever it is on the Canes Twitter, but you've got a whole community of Hurricanes fans too that are like, "Yep, we just said that. We are owning it, and I mean, people go right at it with everybody else too, and I think that's the cool community part. Hopefully it doesn't get too aggressive with people, but it is the cool part that we're ready to drop gloves too. And that's the cool part to see on Twitter.
I've worked for a few different teams now, and and you know this as a fan,
Yeah.
there are every fan base has passion and everything. I have never encountered something quite like how Hurricanes fans are, whether it's on social or just in
Yeah.
person. And it's special. And in some ways, when I first got here, I kind of refer to it in my head as like the best kept secret in North Carolina because like there was a very passionate group of fans. When you've been here for
Yeah.
playoff games and stuff, I've never been in a building that loud. And I'm not just saying that because I work marketing here. I try
Yeah.
to be,
No.
pretty unbiased. The passion here is unbelievable, and it's something that we're just at the tip of the iceberg here too for it. So if the Stadium Series game was again a great example of
Yeah.
what the potential is for this sport, this
Yeah.
market.
Well, I think it's a testament too because you have other players who now we've acquired who have said it's really hard to play in the PNC arena like you were talking about because of how loud it is. And it could be a Wednesday night. Roddy's come out and even talked about that as well. He's like, it could be a Tuesday night and it will be packed. Um, I was there in 0506 when we won the Stanley Cup. I remember those 10 very painful years before we came back and Roddy came in as head coach, and it's incredible to see the last 5 6 years how passionate the city of Raleigh has gotten back into the Hurricanes, and how it's been a beautiful thing to watch, especially like you're saying during the playoffs. It's nutty. It gets crazy.
It's awesome, and I grew up in the Northeast, and
Yeah,
I didn't normally tailgate before Yankees games. You
yeah,
go to one of the bars across the street, and
yeah,
I didn't go to a lot of Giants games growing up. Went to a bunch of Nets games, but even then, it's like you're not tailgating at the Continental Airlines Arena or the Izod Center or
yeah,
in
yeah,
Newark. So like the tailgating scene here at a pro sports level is just it's the culture of it all. It's so fun and it's unique and
yeah.
it's something that I love to see grow and families kind of pass that down as we continue to march onward.
I make a joke to my dad all the time because my dad, my sister, and I were season ticket holders, and so I make a joke with him all the time. I'm like, there's no other place you can go except Florida in July and see playoff hockey and be wearing flip flops and shorts, and just be so comfortable watching hockey.
Good point. I'd love to ask you a question.
Yeah,
What are some times when you felt a really strong connection to the Hurricanes throughout I mean, obviously you were here
yeah,
for a lot of the special memories. I'd love to
yeah.
hear some of your experiences.
Yeah, the Stadium Series was a big one. Like I was young when we won the Stanley Cup, but I remember the parade afterwards. Like I remember all of that. But the Stadium Series for me was one that I was like, I can fully remember. It was one of those that I was like taking it all in. I went to NC State, so to see this in the middle of my college football stadium's field and to kind of see it all in, it was it was really cool to see, and I had chills not because it was actually that cold, but because it was just really cool to see that we were told 2020 before COVID hit, this was coming into town. We'd been waiting three years, and to finally see this, it was a pretty surreal, magical thing to be like, yep, we're finally here. This
Yeah.
is cool.
I wasn't sure it was ever going to happen, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
Like, I remember being after the lockdown, we dove into it. I think it was March or April. No, it was probably March or April 2020, where
yeah,
we started doing the uniform designing process, the
yes,
patch designing, and then like it's like, well, are we actually going to do this game? Like, we're doing stuff here, and of course, the uniform leaked somehow. Like, in which that's the whole other fun story. But I love seeing counterfeit versions of a uniform that hadn't been released yet. But a lot of work went into that, and it was such a unique circumstance because of the pandemic. But to see it finally pay off and to kind of give us more time to build our brand and fan base, by the time we had that game, it was special. I was really glad I was able to attend that as a
yeah,
fan. Our staff is in a spot now where we're built out enough where I'm involved in administrative stuff and
yeah,
emailing and supporting them. I'm not boots on the ground anymore. So my wife and my dad and I got to go experience that, which was cool because when I was with the Panthers for the Super Bowl, like I had to work it, and it was
yeah.
a lot. And it's honestly, it's a mistake I've made in my career that I didn't take a step back to enjoy it. And you know what? Other people reached out to me. The buddy from the Seahawks who was there a couple years before, and someone else reached out too, and they were like, "Take a step back and enjoy it. Like it might not happen again." I was like, "No, no, we're gonna be a powerhouse for years. I'll be back there next year. We're gonna win it and the whole thing." And I remember even the day before the game, I was in my hotel room just like working on stuff and get
Yeah,
it done. The day of the game, and it was fun. Don't get me wrong. There was so
yeah,
much rewarding about that, but like I could have enjoyed it differently. So now I got that opportunity to do that in my hometown now, in a market that I do call home. And it was special. I'm very thankful we won that one. That was my only concern going in. I was
yeah. It was
like,
mine too.
it's
It
like
was
I was terrified. When Cook and Yemi scored that goal, I was like, oh thank God, just keep it
I
going.
was like, woo! I was like, let's go, let's keep it rolling, let's keep the goals going. It's been, I mean, just thinking of memories too.
Yeah,
We've been. This is probably I think our fourth year. We were 22 season ticket holders. We bumped up to full season just because we're like, all right, we're full in this year.
love it.
Um, but it's the my dad, my sister, and I going. It's just that time that the three of us can catch up, see each other
Yeah.
in the week. No matter what, this is us. This is we go, and this is our thing. We've been going since we were so young, and so this is he's always taking us to games. So for us, this is our time just to have some beers, have some laughs, watch hockey, and it's a really fun time for us. And we've been extremely lucky to see all 5 years of playoffs now that we've been in it, and so some pretty nutty nutty happenings, as you know.
Right.
But extremely lucky that we've been there to see all this happen and um, manifesting that the Stanley Cup is coming to us this year.
Like, I hope so. It's I've been very, very lucky in my career and to experience some really special teams, and
Yeah,
I've never been part of a championship season. I've come close,
yeah, yeah,
and it would be really cool to just experience that, and to experience it here where I have roots down now, where my kids can experience that too. I'm granted, my daughters will be 6 by the
okay,
time my son will be 3. So they love hockey, but they don't, know what's going on. But just to be able to like take them to a parade, and like that would be. I haven't been to a championship parade since 2009 when the Yankees won the World
okay,
Series, and it's totally like just to experience that with all the fans here that have become like
yeah.
family. It would be really, really special. So I hope so. I really hope that, Raleigh can experience that again, and the Hurricanes can continue to solidify themselves as
Yeah.
the prominent pro team in North Carolina.
I want to hop and just pick your mind a little bit about when these big events like Stadium Series are coming up, or even a playoff run where this past season it was Never Compromise, uh,
Yeah,
with extremely creative movie poster style game day graphics. I mean, it was written in NHL.com, and then you had the cameo after defeating Jersey, which brought the biggest smile to my face. But when you have these bigger events that you know are coming down, how do you guys approach, okay, this is hashtag never compromise, or this is what we're leading with for the Stadium Series?
we've been laying the groundwork for process for a long time, and it wasn't until this season that we got the approval to sort of staff up appropriately. And we did lose some people during the pandemic. They went and got different jobs
Yeah,
and things like that. And our team got real lean. I mean, it was me, it was Matt, our social person. We now we're fully staffed up
yeah,
on both the creative services side with our designers and our video producers and our photographers and project managers and all that, and then the digital side, which is still, in my opinion, a little lean, but we
yeah,
have a great crew there. And we've always preached being proactive. I mean, I'm not going to rotate my computer because I'm scared I'll knock it over during the recording. But like, there's a whole list of departmental principles here, and one that we really prioritize here, in addition to being kind and compassionate and thoughtful with our communication, is being really proactive with our planning. And I've done this long enough to know that the thing that really does separate the good teams from the great ones is is planning ahead. So that never compromise meeting, we had that months and months before the playoffs started. And part of the reason we did that exercise is in my time here, we haven't been structured in a way where we have been able to um, develop fully integrated marketing and branding campaigns. And we had to take learning a little bit. So whatever the outcome of that was going to be, whatever within reason, any catchphrase or marketing slogan they had, I was going to be like, "Yep, I'm on board."
Yep.
Because I wanted to watch our new creative director interact with our digital team and everybody else, and I wanted to see that we could do it. And I was really proud of how at least that was born, because it was one of our email marketing and paid media specialists that it actually no compromise was going to be the initial one.
Okay.
Uh, After that got approved by the league, we found out that it had been adopted by some like neo-Nazi groups in Europe, and we're like, we got to pivot on that one a
We're
little
gonna
bit.
change that one real quick.
So but it was all built around the whole NC thing and everything else, and it was an exercise in getting everybody comfortable with working together. Because prior to the season, that full creative services team was never really part of our digital and marketing team, and we wanted to see what that was all about. So that was well in advance. That Sopranos and Jersey thing that you mentioned, that was an idea that we had. Oh God, I had that 5 years ago or so, maybe 4 years ago. We were going to do it to the Rangers because there were some players on the team we were playing in the playoffs that were
Yeah.
also cameo, and we were going to trick them into. But then we kind of chickened out because we were like, well, what if the NHLPA gets involved and all this
Yeah.
stuff? And we ended up not doing it. And then last year or 2 years ago, we actually tried it against Boston. And the subject that we weren't really tricking. It's just we asked people to say like, "Hey, my friend Carolina or Caroline has won a contest at work and has advanced." I mean, it's all technically true. The contest at work is just the Stanley Cup playoffs,
Yeah.
but the response we got to the Boston one was just like, we can't use this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was tough with the Jersey one because the first response we got, we couldn't use, and because it was too good. Because it was someone that is on Devil's Media, and they went
Okay.
and I was like, I don't want to get this guy in trouble. He's too nice. But
Yeah.
then we again the other ones, and we're like, this is so good. We actually had to clear it by Cameo. We had a conversation with them, and then they were on board with it. And
Okay.
apparently, a political campaign in Pennsylvania, I guess the Dr. Oz and Fetterman
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
had done something similar a few months before. So this was not uncharted territory for them, and ended up working out really, really well. And I did not go to sleep that night. I read all the mentions and all that stuff, and just to
Good.
watch that people get excited about it. And
Yeah.
also, I grew up in New Jersey. I know the stereotypes, I know the comedy behind it, and I appreciated it. Just growing up there, I was like, I love The Sopranos. I grew up watching that. Like
Yeah.
it was cool to see it. But the point is, we do a lot of our planning well in advance, and we try to also position all of our staff to have a voice in what we do and to try to be different. And those designs that our creative and graphic design team put together, those movie poster things, the prompt for that was just like, go have fun and have it not have to do with hockey. Like just do
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
different. And I think hockey has been really hungry for stuff like that for a while. There is so much drama and action within this sport on the ice. Like there's no reason why all of our height graphics have to be the same, like guys skating or whatever else. And that's something that I think now our team has had some experience with that and can continue building on it as we go into next season and beyond.
Yeah, two of my favorites was one was during the Devils where you could see the devil horns coming up from out of the ocean with the hand. And
Yeah.
then the other one was the panther ears in front of the PNC arena with
Yeah.
snow around it.
Yeah.
They were so good, and they set the tone as well with the never compromise. We're coming at you. We're ready.
It's so hard to stop the scroll, and especially in sports, because there's a lot of really creative, talented people out there. And I am so immensely proud of how our staff did there. And I'm excited for what we can do. I mean, this has been a vision that we've had for several years. I mean, honestly, it dates back to my time with the Panthers. And to finally kind of have the staff that we want, the team we want. And we couldn't do that without the leadership from our CMO, Mike Foreman, and Tom and Don giving us the approval to have the budget we need and the staffing we need
Yeah.
to do all this. And I know it sounds arrogant, but we're just getting warmed up. There's a whole lot more on our plan that we think will be not only exciting for fans in that way, but also that it will continue to grow passion for this brand in an authentic and human way, which is to me a really important piece of the puzzle as we sort of march towards our 30th year, 35, and then onward.
We've talked a lot about it a little bit in terms of metrics and how you measure things. When we're talking about all of these game day graphics and never compromise the Willie video that kind of is the intro before the guys come out, what metrics do you guys look at to measure fan engagement? How riled up we all get into everything? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, so we have a couple of different analytics tools that we use to measure this stuff and report on it. But one thing that I stress internally is I don't care what our audience size is. I
Yeah.
don't care how many follows. If you were to quiz me on that right now, I would probably fail it because I don't care. Like
Yeah.
we're a hockey team in the Southeast. We've been in Raleigh since 1997.
Yep.
10 of those years were not good. The past five are, and social media is not an indication of how good or popular or relevant you are. Our goal is to mean something to our fans. One metric, though, that we do value very highly is interaction rate, because that to us is there's a correlation between do our fans like our content? And typically we lead the league or among the top five teams in interaction rate. Now, we are helped a little bit. The way that metric is calculated, we are aided by the fact that our audience size is as large as the other teams, but we're still outperforming everybody else at such a high level that it's a good indication that two things are really working for us. One is quality over quantity, and we're very selective in what we do put out there. A lot of teams, and this is something I noticed when I got to the Canes, and this is not a knock on them at all.
Yeah.
They did what they had to do in the current state of the team, but that filter of like, all right, does this belong on social or does it not belong on social, was sort of needed to be adjusted just a little bit. And it's ironically enough, what they were doing back then is kind of like what we need to be doing again now. So they weren't doing it wrong, and it might have been just like not the perfect fit for that period in time, in my opinion. And we really pulled that back a little bit and focused on quality over quantity, a ton of one-on-one interactions. Like we need to be more responsive than everybody else. And that's something I push a lot across all platforms, whether it's the DMs, the Twitter replies, the Instagram replies, whatever. But that quality over quantity approach is key because that allows us to really kick up that interaction rate number, because we're never going to be able to sell total interactions. We don't have the audience side for that. So if we can tell partner number X or whatever that like, hey, we're the most interactive team with the highest engagement rate in the NHL or in North Carolina or of these 20 teams that are all over pro sports, that is going to help us like set ourselves apart. So we really prioritize that. And there's other metrics on web and mobile and email that we really highlight that show a similar trend of high levels of interaction, because we know we're never going to win the audience size debate. That's fine. We don't need to. Like I'd rather have 100 people that are like insanely passionate than 10,000 that are passive. So it's something that has helped us a lot here. But now that we have a successful team on the ice and our brand is a little more established, and we have the content producers in house, we can kind of ratchet up that frequency a little bit more. And we have the audience size that has grown a little bit because of that strategy, that we need to be telling certain stories that may not have resonated in the past, but whether they're community outreach things or whatever else, that we can tell them in a more creative way, but we definitely want to be showcasing them a little bit more. Whereas 3 or 4 years ago, it was like only the greatest hits. And now we can afford to have a few things that, let's be real, like our fans follow us for hockey stuff. They're not following us for, as awesome as it is, someone on our community outreach team dropping off frozen turkeys during Thanksgiving. It's still really valuable. It's really good. But it doesn't get the numbers on social. So, but now it's like, all right, are we at a stage where maybe numbers don't matter as much because we found our footing?
And this community in Raleigh too, like we've been talking about, we love to see I love to see every part of it because it's just an opportunity that you're seeing an organization that is talked about being so small or is not one of the original however many. It's a fantastic organization that is doing ABCD, is giving back to the community. You got Stormy driving through tailgates before every game, like you know what I mean, like it checks the boxes. From my perspective as a fan, it's great to be able to see everything the Carolina Hurricanes are doing, and um, I love that we get to be part of that experience as well.
And that's something that I see as a big area of opportunity for us in the
Yeah,
future. Is I know we do an okay job of being fan friendly,
yeah,
but I'd like to see us get even more friendly wise aggressive with how much we leverage and respond to fan feedback, and not just through social, but like
yeah,
we the way to win in this industry nowadays is through transparency, as well as like listening to your fans and making those changes if you can do it in a measured way. So our BI team right now is hard at work on developing some things like that that'll allow us to better intake feedback and
yeah.
take action on it. And I do think that those are the seeds that if you can plant now of showing that you're listening and growing based on what your fans want, that 25 years from now, those are big old trees. And that's where you have those major brands. And in a meeting we had about it, the Cleveland Browns came up where perhaps they haven't been as successful on the field, but their fans are tremendously passionate because of the connection they have to the
Yep,
community and to the region. And if we can do that while being successful on the field,
yep.
the possibilities are endless. So the Hurricanes, knock on wood, are on a very nice trajectory right now, but there's a lot of room for growth in how we embrace our fans and how we listen to our fans, and also how we create community or facilitate the creation of community for our fans.
My last question for you, Dan, in this big sports industry world and this creative outlet that you are in, what inspires you?
That's a good question. Tough question. Uh, I think I may adjust that one a little bit
Yeah,
to like, why do I love what I do, and it creates inspiration for me. Um, you said it before, and you talked about how like you have these times when you go with your family to
yeah,
hockey games, and how special that is for you. And 10 years from now, look, you might be living in a different part of the country. You never know what's really going to happen. You might be working a job here, San Francisco, wherever, and you can think back and be like, I had those great memories, and I had those times there where like that's a big part of who I am and what I am, and some things that bring me joy here. And the fact that I and our team here, our marketing department, gets to play a small role in helping support those types of memories and connections and moments for people. That's the best part of what I do here. That's what gives me pride in kind of what we're able to accomplish for the Hurricanes, and to help kind of continue pushing that to create more opportunities for fans to feel that way. That's why I love it. And the other cliche answer, what inspires me, is the one thing that keeps me around here, besides the fact that I like living here,
yeah,
is I really like the people I work with in this organization. And I know it's like, oh, you're on camera, that's why you're saying that. No, that's true. I've said this before.
yeah,
Um, it's I really like I have a lot of love for our staff here and the culture that we have built. And it's you never like, if you're ever on a job interview, for anybody who's watching, and like people are always like, oh, we're like a family here. Personally, I always take that as a red flag. Not that my family is not dysfunctional at all, but like
yeah,
I was like, I don't like that comparison. But there's a strong bond and friendship and level of comfort here that we have, to where we can joke and enjoy each other. And I have a lot of love for our staff here in the team we have, and that's kind of what doesn't necessarily inspire me, but is what pushes me
yeah.
to want to be your best self
Love it.
for around you. And that's it. So the community, the fans, and the people here, that's what sports is all about, and that's what the connection is. So that's kind of what I guess you could say inspires me.
I think what's really unique, and you've heard players say it, you've heard Roddy say it, you've heard a lot of people say it in the Hurricanes organization. What makes hockey special here
Yeah.
is the people. And I think we are not, like we've been talking about, we are not a traditional team. We are a hockey team in the South, and it is 98 degrees here today. We're talking about hockey starting in just a few months. It's it's the people here that love, and I've grown up here. It's truly a fantastic community to be part of. And I absolutely love this city and brag on it all the time.
No, me too. And if you would have told 14-year-old me that, you would be working and helping support a hockey team in North Carolina when you grow up, I'm like, all right, give me some whatever drug that is. But I never drew it up this way. Never thought it would happen. But that's kind of the excitement of working in sports,
Yeah.
is that it leads you to these places that are really, really special sometimes. And now for us, it's home. And I think people from around here, all throughout the Carolinas, there's a certain level of pride, whether you were born here or you moved here, that you really you're proud of what we have and what we're building, and we're all kind of on the same page, kind of wanting this to be the best it can be together. And that's something that I think aligns really well with our fans here too. Is that I hate using this term, but it feels like a family sometimes, like that we're all kind of pulling in the same direction.
Yeah.
But to your point, you are part of that, and thank you for doing your part to kind of make what we're doing here as special as it can be.
Yeah, yeah, especially I mean just even thinking back to the stadium series, there was, however many seats, and you're looking around and you're like, wow, this is a lot of Carolina red right here.
Yeah, if I didn't have so many shots beforehand, I would have thought it was really special. No, I actually I was a DD, in all seriousness.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, it was surreal. Like, and
Yeah.
it's almost so hard to take in, of like seeing. Also, I've never been to an NC State football game before. Still haven't. I
Okay.
have a goal of doing it this year. In
Okay.
fact, I've only been to one college football game. Mike Foreman, our CMO, took me to Wake Forest,
That's not
Carolina game.
shocking because of his love for Wake
Yeah,
Forest.
exactly. So I was like, and it was fun. He had this extra ticket, and I was like, all right, I want to see what this is all about. And it was, I had a lot of trouble navigating and finding my seat at Carter Finley, because I was like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing here. So that was a challenge. So we actually missed the national anthem,
Oh,
which I went back. I've watched it 100 times, and my
yeah.
son has been in a stage for the past couple months where
Okay.
um, when he wants to watch the Canes, we go to YouTube,
Yes.
and he'll want to watch the same video again and again and again. So it's like an Aho goal or the outdoor game,
Yeah.
or for a while it was like all the storm surges,
Yeah.
especially the Whalers night surges, because
Yeah.
like green Canes, and it's like all right, but I also watched the outdoor game like
Yeah.
recap video. God, so many, because my son really wanted to,
Yeah.
and so it's almost like I was there, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to learn how to navigate Carter
Yeah.
Finley at some point.
Yeah. One that needs to be added to that list is the Jesper Foss goal to defeat the Devils. That one I've watched a million times
Yeah.
in OT, and that one is one up. I just can sit there and watch that over and over again.
Oh yeah, and that's what's great about this sport in particular,
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
that something can change so quickly. Like Brock McGinn's goal too versus the Caps a couple of years ago. Like, and it almost takes you back to exactly what you were feeling at that moment. So, it's hockey's a hell of a sport, and I'm
Yeah.
kind of mad at myself for not watching it when I was a kid, but I'm
Yeah.
making up for it now.
Yeah, well, and like you were just saying, like I can remember exactly what was happening. Like Brock McGinn's goal, I was like crouched down, just just watching that game, game five. Jesper Foss scoring that goal. I was
Yeah.
there. It was I can see the goal happening. So it's those moments that you're like, yep, I can tell you exactly what was happening at this very moment.
When you were watching the Brock McGinn goal, were you on delay at all? Because I started getting all these text messages from friends, and I was like, "Ah, we won, great!" But it was kind of like a little slow.
Yes. My dad was on one, my sister was on the other, and I was like, we've got three different times here right now. I'm like, we are all over the place.
Love it, and that's that connection now. That's what
Yeah.
matters.
Yes. Well, Dan, I cannot thank you enough for coming on and speaking with me today, and diving into all this sports love. And I'm extremely excited to see what Carolina Hurricanes hockey has to hold this year.
Yeah, me too. Looking forward to it, and hopefully, see you around tailgating before a game this season.
Yes, yes, lots of tailgating, and you guys, please go follow the Canes, and please go give them some love. Really excited for this coming up season. And Dan, just thank you, thank you, thank you. And
Thank you for having me, Danielle.
yeah, and as always, I will see you guys back here next time.
Yep.
Adios.